Who do you think of when you think of power couples? Well, if we're talking about sports, we could look at Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez, A-Rod and J-Lo. We could look at Justin Verlander and Kate Upton. How about sports power couples in the 1950s? Well, you'd probably look no further than Joe DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe. But I'll tell you what, after chatting about Jackie Jensen last week and getting ready to talk with Zoe Ann Olsen this week, and the media interest that developed when they got married, I think they're right up there with any power couple you can think of. And today, we're going to talk about Zoe Ann Olsen. Welcome to Productive Discourse. Productive Discourse is a conversation where we talk about the positive activities that take place within our communities. In other words, we're constantly searching for our shining needle of common ground in that haystack of fear. Today, we're continuing our conversation about the great athletes that came out of Oakland's high schools. We're talking about athletes that exhibited what I call the 3 E's: energy, enthusiasm, and excellence into their passion, where many of them turned pro and won championships. Some were elected to their sports halls of fame, and a great many went on to come back and serve their communities. Today, we're talking about Olympic diver Zoe Ann Olsen. In last week's discussion about Jackie Jensen, I was left wanting to know more about his wife, Zoe Ann. I came to the conclusion that Jackie and Zoe Ann were two good, decent people who spent their whole life trying to live up to expectations that other people had for them. Now, during the course of this conversation, I'm going to refer to 3 sources. The first one is my go-to source when it comes to Oakland sports, and that's Home Field Advantage. Oakland, California, the city that changed the face of sports, by Paul Brecky Meisner. I'm also going to quote from a book called The Golden Boy by George I. Martin, and an Iowa newspaper called The Courier from Waterloo, Iowa, November 13th, 2004. Zoe Ann Olsen was a great athlete. By age 11, she won all of Iowa's state springboard championships. She won the first of 14 AAU national diving titles by age 14. She won an Olympic silver medal in the 1948 London Olympics. And as she was training for the Olympics, she set her goals as attending Stanford University and then getting married. Zoe Ann was born in Council Bluffs, Iowa, moved to Oakland with her family in the early 1940s when her father enlisted in the military and was stationed at the Alameda Naval Air Station. Her parents designed an elaborate workout program, an elaborate training program that prepared her for competition. She would work out at the Athens Athletic Club, and she enjoyed seeing Jack, who was there as a lifeguard, and he enjoyed her company. They started dating when Jack entered college. Zoe said that the main thing she remembered about her childhood was always being tired. Always being tired. Mother was like a slave driver, always doing tap, ballet, adagio, piano, drama, radio skits, swimming, diving. As the relationship with Jack developed, Jack became interested in getting married, but Zoe was hesitant because she wanted to go to Stanford. It was actually a dispute that Zoe Ann got into with her parents one evening that made her decide to call Jack up. And when Jack came to pick her up, she got in the car and said to him, "I'd like to start the planning for the wedding." Planning for the wedding. This turned into be a wedding akin to a royal wedding. Jack and Zoe Ann completely lost control. Zoe Ann said in Martin's book, her mom and dad took complete control, and Jack and I had no role in planning the wedding. 400 people were invited. 1,500 people showed up to the church, and 1,000 people showed up to the reception at the Athens Athletic Club. Jack and Zoe Ann were overwhelmed and exhausted. Now, 3 days before the wedding, they picked up their wedding license at the Alameda County Courthouse. The clerk's name was Marion Edwards. And she had a regular routine when young couples would come in for their license. She handed Zoe Ann the customary cookbook that went to all the brides. And she said, "If you start your married life with this, it's a cinch your husband will be the best fed ball player in the major leagues." I called my mother up after reading this because Jack and Zoe were married in 1949, and my mom and dad were married in 1956. And I said, "Mom, was there a woman named Marion Edwards that might have given you a cookbook when you and Dad went in for your wedding license?" And she said, "No, we didn't get one. But apparently Marion Edwards was doing that in 1948. And I'm impressed with how much she embraced the job, because I could just imagine behind Jack and Zoe, there might have been a couple where the husband was a truck driver. And I could just see Marion Edwards handing her the cookbook and saying, "If you start married life with this, your husband's going to be the best fed truck driver on the route." So a very cute story. Now, after the wedding, they went on a driving honeymoon for 2 months. And when they got home, Zoe Ann was pregnant with her first child. And Jan Kai Jensen was born on September 19th, 1950. Now, in modern day baseball, when one of the players has a wife who's about to give birth, they go on paternity leave. They're there for the birth, and they're there for a few days after, as things start to get as settled as they're going to get in a few days. And then they go back and they meet the team. Not so much in 1950. The Yankees were in Chicago playing the White Sox when Jan Kai was born, and Jack got a telegram and letting him know that he was officially a daddy. He passed out cigars and he celebrated the birth of Jan Kai with his teammates. Now, being married and having a child did not take away Zoe Ann's healthy, competitive spirit. The fact that she lost the gold medal in 1948 by a half point to a woman who she had beaten in other competitions motivated her to train for the 1952 Olympics. They were in Helsinki, and she qualified for the team and won a bronze. She's the only woman diver to medal in both the 1948 and 1952 Olympics. Jackie and Zoe had 2 more children, John and Jay. And as I mentioned in the opening, they had a lot of media requests. And both of them were very open and honest with the media. In Martin's book, The Golden Boy, in the 1970s, Zoe Ann spoke to Sonny Merrick in the San Jose Mercury News. And Martin took some quotes from this article for his book. Zoe Ann said to Sonny Merrick, 6 months after the wedding, he lost his wedding ring. While he didn't think it was a big deal, I did. And we had a major conflict in the marriage. Now, nowhere in the article did it say whether Jack made any attempt to replace his wedding ring or where they went from there, but it really caused some conflict in the marriage. Zoe Ann also told Merrick that she had ulcers by age 21 and underwent an abortion so she could train for the 1952 Olympics. Now, after the 1952 Olympics, Zoe Ann retired from competitive diving, but endorsed some products. And ironically, during the 1950s, the most popular product for athletes to endorse were cigarettes. And Zoe Ann endorsed brands like Camel and Viceroy. Zoe Ann and Jack divorced in 1963. They tried to make a go of it again, remarried, but divorced again for the final time in 1968. So we're almost 75 years removed from those 1948 Olympics. And where are we now? What has improved? What do we need to do better? Well, attitudes have changed. Attitudes have changed to where we support women's sports. Title IX passed in the early 1970s, and Title IX was designed so that girls in high school and in college get the same opportunities in sports as the boys do. And this has been an overwhelming success. It was Title IX that led to the famous 1999 U.S. World Cup team, or U.S. soccer team, led by Brandi Chastain, that won the World Cup. It was Title IX that has led to the popularity of the WNBA that's growing by leaps and bounds. It's Title IX that led to millions of women who have graduated from high school, graduated from college, and had satisfying experiences playing sports that has helped them as they've gone into adulthood. What would Zoe Ann Olsen's experience look like in 2021? The 1950s, Zoe Ann Olsen was Jackie Jensen's wife. She was Jan, Jay, and John's mother, who happened to find time to train for the 1952 Olympics. The 2021 Zoe Ann Olsen would have been an Olympic diver who was attending Stanford University. The romance with Jack might have gone on, but the marriage would have been delayed. She'd have had her endorsements, and the endorsements would have been more appropriate for an athlete than endorsing cigarettes. Now, are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. And there are still ongoing problems. We still don't know how to handle the types of sexual abuse scandals that took place with the U.S. women's gymnastics team. We still don't know how to handle mental illness. A couple months ago, Buster Posey retired from the San Francisco Giants. Well, Giants fans and baseball fans were disappointed that Posey was retiring at the top of his career. Most people understood the damage done by the broken leg he had in 2011. Most people understood the hip injuries that were constantly bothering him. And most people understood that if you keep taking foul balls off the catcher's mask, it's going to do long-term damage. But we're still unable to look at mental illness the same way as we look at a physical illness or a physical injury. And while Zoe Ann helped Jack manage his anxiety and his mental illness, 75 years after the fact, Simone Biles still has to justify and explain the anxiety she suffers from. We definitely have a ways to go. Now, Martin gave some other facts about Zoe Ann. When Jack and Zoe Ann divorced, she went to work as a blackjack dealer at a Nevada casino. In 1972, she remarried a man named Don Barnham, who was an underground construction executive. And in the 90s, when Don was working for the Department of Defense, they lived in Saudi Arabia for 4 years. Zoe Ann was elected to the International Swimming Hall of Fame in 1989 and passed away on September 23rd, 2017. She said to Martin for his book, "We just weren't meant to be married. We should have stayed on a buddy-buddy relationship. That way, we could have been dear friends for our whole lives." I hope you enjoyed our conversation about Zoe Ann, a very compelling figure and a very strong figure. If you like what you're hearing and seeing with Productive Discourse, please go to productivediscourse.home.blog. It gives great information on our activities and how you can contact me if you'd like me to speak at your service club, community organization, your religious group, or your Toastmasters club. Now, for the next 2 weeks, we're going to take a little bit of a break during the holidays, and we're going to replay the first 2 episodes from this series on athletes that develop their skills in Oakland. We're going to replay part 1 and part 2 of our interview with Richard Griffin Jr., graduate of Fremont High that went on to be a great umpire and official for youth and college sports. When we come back the first week of January, we're going to talk about a Major League Baseball player who changed the game more than any player in the history of baseball. And that would be Oakland's Curt Flood. So I wish you all a happy holiday season and look forward to a new episode the first week of 2022. So please like, share, comment, subscribe, so this message will go far and wide and we'll find that shining needle of common ground in that haystack of fear.